On this episode, we're outside. Good to go? Not crow. Dude, there's two of them now. Let's hope they don't start humping. All right, ready to go? Good. All right. Well, welcome everybody to another episode of the Steel Entrepreneur Show. This is episode 13, and we are gonna bang out 3 questions. We're outside today, we're changing it up, and of course, now we got the blower, and we've got these crows humping in the trees, but we're gonna do the best we can. So let's make the most of this, and Rihanna, why don't we go ahead with the first few questions here.
Okay, so our first question is from Terry. So Terry asks, I run a digital marketing SEO company, and I often worry about whether or not I have diversified myself enough. Any tips?
I'm guilty of the same. You could say that I've sort of diversified myself a little bit, as far as like I've got different companies, which has saved my ass time and time again. But you know, one of the things that's been bugging me for a long time is what happens if SEO goes away. What happens if Google no longer lets us play in their playground? It's their rules; they can make them. What if it goes 100% paid? We would no doubt lose some clients, and we would have to adapt, and we would have to switch over to paid marketing really quickly. So that's kind of a scary reality. I guess I would I mean, it's kind of preachy, and I've said this a million times, but I would just build something else. Build something that, one of the I guess the best things that I think I've done so far is I've built a business that doesn't require me per se, that doesn't require me to be in the office, doesn't even require me to be awake. Probably sometimes there are days where I wake up in the morning. My goodness, must they? Some days when I wake up in the morning and I will look at, I'll pull up my phone, because of course that's the first thing I do in the morning, and PayPal transactions. So I'll see payments coming in, and I shit you not, there have been times where it has brought me to tears, because that is so sweet that I've created something that brings in money while I'm sleeping. So whether it's regardless of what kind of company it is, I think I would encourage you to try and build something that doesn't require your hours, because inevitably you are going to you're going to cap out eventually, as I very much have, and now find myself waking up early and earlier just to try and sneak in as much as I possibly can. So I think, and it's funny, I've seen a lot of my contemporaries go the same way. Is they'll start an agency and then they'll end up as affiliates, or they'll end up as affiliates and then they'll end up owning their own product, and then they sell their own product, or a number of different variations of that. Either way, they all sort of, I guess, get tired of agency life, get tired of selling their time for money, and they quickly sort of appreciate or realize the limitations in doing such. So best advice is try and find some sort of business that you're interested in, that you can sell things while you sleep, essentially. And I don't know that I have too much more advice than that, other than just get it started as soon as possible, because you will, like I said, inevitably come to that point where there's no more hours left to work, and you're just going to have to sacrifice. And that isn't necessarily, well, it's not necessarily necessary. So, what do you think? Is that sort of jive? Yeah. I guess you guys would probably get to that point eventually where
I think we're there.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess so, right? It's just, especially with you guys, it is you. It is your time. You have to be on scene, on set. and there's kind of no substitute for other than selling other people's time, hiring employees and selling their time, which is sort of, and then you have to hire more, and then you have to manage those people, and it just spirals from there. So there's no good solution other than stop selling yours and other people's time for money. What's the next one?
Jim asks, how are you keeping your large remote team motivated?
Yeah, that's always been a tough one, and I don't know that I've done a tremendous job of that. I think it's sort of an everyday struggle. I think because we are a remote team, because we are outside, we're not in an office, we're not, most of us have never met and probably never will. It doesn't sort of foster the same sort of culture that would otherwise be created if you worked in sort of an office environment and rubbed shoulders with people. And so there isn't that sort of opportunity to get in front of everybody and get them charged, or to have other people's inspiration and motivation and energy and positivity, I guess, rub off on each other. There just isn't that sort of thing. So, we have to kind of do our best, and it'll never be as good, in my opinion, anyways. We have regular sort of stand-up type meetings. So we, as some of you guys will now know, because I've talked about it a number of times, we use Scrum. And so we have different sprints, and each sprint ends on a different day. And with every business that we add a sprint essentially. So we're almost meeting every single day of the week, because that is each week has their own sprint, again, which is associated with a different business. And so I take those very limited opportunities, 15-20 minutes, to try and kind of get people going. But even then, we're very task oriented. We're very, did this get done? What did the client say? Or this, that, and the other. And we don't honestly leave a lot of time for culture building and things like that. So I think the best thing you can do in a remote type of environment is just to lead by example, is to show up a little bit earlier, work a little bit later, show a little bit more enthusiasm, maybe more enthusiasm than you actually naturally feel, and that sort of thing rubs off on people. I've noticed recently with my increase in hours and waking up earlier and just generally being more present and working harder and getting more done, I've seen sort of the other folks, the other people that are working with us, take notice, and I've seen the same sort of, I've seen them sort of come around and almost charge. What am I trying to say? They kind of push each other. They kind of absorb that energy, and then not force, but kind of that energy becomes very infectious, and it sort of spreads. And I see people, showing up earlier and doing, more hours at the end of the day and getting more done. And the only problem with that is that sort of then it's kind of a trap, right? It's like, okay, so when you show up and when you work harder, more gets done. But what happens if inevitably you don't show up, or you want to distance yourself, or you want to go off and write a book or something like that? Does that mean that they stop showing up, right? So you have to, as much as I think it's taught that, lead by example and be inspiring, and it'll be infectious, be positive, and all that kind of stuff. That sort of a way of things, I think it stops when you stop. So you need to find something, and I can't, other than building cool stuff and trying to keep it fresh and coming up with new companies and new ideas all the time, and just trying to keep things from being stagnant. I don't know that I've really found a great way to do that. It's I can't say that it's something I put a lot of energy into, and I think it's just sort of something that happens naturally just by doing what I do and doing what I enjoy. It does sort of transfer a little bit. So that's the best I got for that one. What else do we got?
So next one's from Michael. How do you determine how much and number of accounts each account manager manages, or does it matter to you?
Yeah, so we've got, one of my big regrets was I never went to work for an agency, so I had to kind of not reinvent the wheel, but kind of just figure it out myself, because when we were building, I wasn't in the mindset of really asking other people or leaning on other people to try and help me figure it out. And so I just kind of went with what made sense. In fact, I think the most I ever did was I went to go see other people's websites and other agencies' websites and just sort of see how they structured their organization. There were account managers, there were directors, there were this and that. And I don't know that there was really anything I found that really worked for us, because every company is a little bit different. I don't know that there is this sort of template per se. But to get back to your question, I think it's, a lot of times I impose myself on other people, and I assume, and by that what I mean is I assume that everybody will work to the same level and standard and whatever as myself, so I can keep loading them up just like I would load myself up, and basically load them up until failure. So load them up until things start going sideways and then kind of pull back from there. I don't know that that is a good way at all. I think there probably should be some sort of set amount of accounts per account manager. The way we've kind of got it set up is we have kind of a talent pool, if you will. So we've got essentially a couple account managers, and then they have access to a talent pool, and they develop sort of the strategy and the plan, and then they pick from that talent pool and say, hey, Chris, I want you to focus on this week, and Serge, I need this design, so can you work on this week? And they kind of know how much they can queue up per week or per month and how much budget they have to play with. And so we have sort of our talent pool, our account managers, and then kind of just, I guess, your executives, if you will. I don't know that I would really call any of us executives, but sort of folks that manage each sort of competency. I guess you could call it directors or something like that. So relatively flat organization, and for us, that sort of non-templated, just sort of find it as it were approach has more or less worked for us. Again, I don't think there is any sort of one perfect approach or anything like that, but just kind of figuring out for yourself is not such a bad way to go about it. Just find out what works for you, and then as far as loading up your people with clients, just load them up until it just things start to break. I think that's probably the best way to go about it, and then you kind of learn from you learn where things break and where things succeed, and then just adjust from there. I'm trying to actively remember that, hey, there are people that are listening to this, they're not necessarily watching this, and to create content that is sort of specific for our podcasters, and not create content that is visual or something like that. So I hope I'm doing an okay job of that. Do check out the podcast. It is on pretty much every sort of podcasting, I don't even know what you'd call it, platform. Yeah, Stitcher and Google Apps and iTunes and Stitcher and so on and so forth. So do check out that. I'd love to hear your feedback. Leave a review, subscribe, obviously. And if you have any other questions, I grabbed these from, we've been doing a little bit more on the Facebook side of things, so we've been able to get a few questions. So if you have any, I hope that you'll send them along, and I have the distinct honor of answering them. And would love more questions. So thanks, guys, and enjoy the rest of your week.